people who know me would regard me as, by and large, as a performance artist. But I come through fine art, drawing, painting, sculpture, printmaking and so on, and then into installation and then performance art. I started off as a young artist in Dundee, when I was age 17, went to art school there. And you had a whole year just to paint away in the studio. And you didn't have to go to any classes or anything. It was fantastic. You had a year just to do your own work. Traveling a lot, making art in different countries. Performances. I was being invited to a whole range of different countries to do performance work, which I really got into in Belfast, because at the time the art school in 1975 was very conservative in Belfast, and I thought I'd like to show another option to students in Belfast. So I got asked to start a master's, so I did, and I'm still here in Northern Ireland. Giving the archive to the Art College in Dundee, it's almost like coming home, coming full circle.
Alastair was looking to house his archive somewhere suitable, where he could still get access to it, still add things to it. And also the key thing for us and for him was that it would be a living archive, it would be allowed to be used. So eventually in 2018, discussions were opened to bring it here, and it arrived here in 2019. We were already working with archives, so we were already started off in sort of 2004. We were working with media archives. Part of that, we started building up this reputation of research here for this concept of the living archive. Do things with the archive. It doesn't just sit dormant in a warehouse, inaccessible. We want to be doing things with it. The value that he finds in his work and in his archive is that he wants people to see it, he wants people to access it, he wants people to be influenced by it, he wants people to research it, he wants younger artists to get involved in performance art. I think that's more important to him than any monetary value from it, because if every time he's done a performance he's been paid, so he's not really interested too much in selling work.
I would welcome some people using the archive to develop their own work, but also to become part of the archive itself. I'm trusting that if people use actual objects from the archive, that they'll be respectful with their use of the materials and they'll bring them back to the archive so others can also use them.
I'm currently conducting my practice-led PhD research in response to the Alastair MacLennan Performance Art Archive. I must have been no older than 19. I discovered a book on Alastair MacLennan, and I remember the first aspect of Alastair and his practice, which is, you can blur the line between the two, was the symbolism he would draw on, least of all his body. He'd use organic materials that would slowly decompose over the course of the performance, and there was a real ephemerality and an aspect of his work that encapsulated what it was to be alive. So the idea of doing an artist residency or spending time in the archive amongst the legacy of another performance artist, it's something far more akin to occupying the inner reality of someone else. You're noticing their tendencies, the patterns, their decision making through the objects, the ideas, the concepts they keep returning to.
Alastair has so many different types of materials in here. Even though he's been very meticulous throughout his life, like recording every performance he's done, there's still a huge amount of different things in here, and we still keep finding mysterious objects and boxes in here that we weren't expecting to find. Alastair had a really consistent system for recording each of his performances. So for each set of slides, there'll be the place it was, the date, the address of the venue, like how long the performance was. So everyone will say it's like 8.5 hours. Like he's very, very rigorous about putting all those bits of information in, the same in each one, which really does make my job a lot easier. For me, it's been focusing on the slides for 3 years because we've got about 30,000 of them. So I've been fairly consistently going through chronologically and just trying not to miss anything there. Pretty much kept everything as it came in. Alastair had it in different types of boxes when he came in. A lot of stuff was in suitcases, but we've been moving them into these boxes, which are more archival quality, but we've been keeping everything as it was collected by him because we still don't quite understand what his logic was for some of the collections of things. Like sometimes we'll go through a box of magazines and we think that it'll be things he's been written about in, but it turns out it's just magazines and we still can't quite figure out whether it was research or what it was. So it's like, leave it together and we'll find that out later.
I spend quite a bit of time with regard to the naming because I would often not want the naming to be simply a description or an illustration of the work. And I would sometimes be trying in the naming to catch a plurality of meaning associations with the word or words involved. So the arrow of meaning could be pointing in opposite directions simultaneously. I find that as a human being, it's important to question everything. Cultural values, political values, spiritual values, religious values. Query and question everything so that we just don't follow blindly. For me, paradox is very, very important. And to have a question mark in the work, in the imaging of the work, and how it manifests. Because I want the people to experience the question mark. And I'm thinking of many of the different ways of being able to find meaning in living through plurality of conceptual spectacling life. Well, somebody might put on a pair of spectacles or lens, whatever, and read or look at something, and then they might wonder what it's like if I put another pair of conceptual spectacles in front of, and then another one, and then maybe on this eye, but maybe, I'll try maybe 15 different ones on this eye, and just to see, what variational aspects seem to come to mind.
In terms of manifesting the research I'm conducting, I've been gravitating towards the idea of honing in or embodying certain voices and perspectives which permeate the archive. In no particular order is MacLennan himself, his history, his intentions behind the work and the archive and how he'd wish that to go and so on. Obviously, I'm one of them. And of course the archive itself being the third voice. The work bases itself around these voices and perspectives, and I can dance between them.
I don't want anybody to copy, to give the illusionistic appearance of exact similitude to somebody else's work, because there's a difference between how something looks and how something is. I'm interested in how something is.
There's quite a lot of other work with artists that he collaborated with, like Black Market International and also Be Beyond in Belfast are important to him. And we want to make sure that those people have access to the archive as well and are included in the collection. For us, it's always about research and impact and education.
I'm still giving stuff to the archive. I mean, there's things in this other room that'll be going into the archive, sending it off to Dundee. When I pass over, I'm no longer here, I wanted to make things simple for my relatives, my sisters and so on. They might not know what the heck to do with this strange stuff. Creativity is for me something that's ongoing every day. I doodle bits of things on bits of paper all the time, and it can transform many of the aspects of daily life. I know there's all the pleasant and wonderful things, there's also the horrors and the disasters. By making art, you can make metaphors of daily actuality and how it is to be alive in the world.